Yeah, it's definitely Microsoft. Even starting recording is taking an age. Okay, so that is it started now. All right, so what I'm going to do is just work my way through this question, exactly how I would think about it. And I use the word think to begin with because I'm not going to jump straight into doing some code. I know I've mentioned that to some of you in the labs already. Starting typing is never a good idea, not before you've thought about it. So let's just go through what we want to do. Create a fully commented program. Okay, I'm not going to comment it as I go along, simply because I'll be talking about it. But it's important that every program that we do is commented. Why? Because even though you've done something, when you come back to it, you won't know what you've done. And if you come back to it in a month and don't know what you've done, what's someone else reading your code going to be like? Oh, create a fully commented program. 2, calculate the cost of UWS gym membership based on the following information. Under 18, over 18, UWS. So we've got 3 possibilities here. But actually, what we have is 2 with another 2. What do I mean by that? Well, see, that would have been much slicker if it had actually come in when I said well. But it will get there. It will catch up. Can we start a fundraiser to buy me a new computer? Yeah, we do. So we've got those options. James, oh, this is just ridiculous. Okay, so we've got a few options. So let me just jot those down. We've got, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've got under 18 at £24. We've got over 18 at £44. Oh, come on. Over 18. Seriously, stupid computer. Over 18 at 44 and UWS free. Are we all happy with that as a way to do something? Is that a fair expression of the problem. Sorry, my chat's disappeared. Okay. Can you all see the chat? Because Ian's come up with a point there. So we've got two things in that. One that says less than 18, one that says over 18. What happens if you are 18? So we've got, first of all, before writing our program, we've got a logical problem. We don't have one of the possibilities. So that's where you would go back and say, did you mean up to and including 18 or up to 18? The answer you get is kind of irrelevant. So for this one, I'm just going to say it's 18 and above. So greater than or equal to 18. Now we need to think about what that means. What do we need to know for this? To solve this issue, what other information do we need to have? Well, surely if we're going to charge people based on, thank you, Ian. If we're going to charge people based on their age, we need to know their age. And we need to know whether or not they're a student. So before we even get to the code, we can start thinking, okay, get age. Get student. And then we can say if less than 18, (24), (44). So we're getting there. We're getting the age, we're getting the student, and then we can set values based on whether or not they are less than 18. I don't really like that. Firstly, we haven't decided what to do if you're a student. But also, if we look at that logic, the age only becomes important depending on the answer to whether or not you're a student. Because you can be a student of any age and be charged nothing. So let's just rethink that. Let's say, okay, let's first of all get whether you're a student. Actually, let's make that a decision. Now, what I'm doing here are things called flowcharts. You may or may not have come across them. But it's just a way of jotting down the logic. Now, I'm doing this on the screen clearly for you. But for you, grab a bit of paper and start doing these things. And the good thing is, if you don't like it, you put a line through it and take another bit of paper. or move on to the next clear bit of paper. You don't have to go back to the code and start doing it in the code. Because if we get whether or not you're a student, if it's yes, then it becomes charge 0 and stop. It's only if it's no do we need to say whether or not the age is less than 18 or not. If it is, it's 24. If it's not, it's 44. Either way, once we've done that, we can stop. So before I even go and try and type in any code at all, my to-be read pile is now getting taller than me. We need to start reading some books. Before we start deciding on any code at all, we think about the logic. We think about what it is we need to do and how we're going to do that. So does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about that logic before I move on to some code? No, all happy? Okay, in that case, let me bring up code. Now you'll see I am running Visual Studio Code. I think it said to you right at the start, I do prefer Visual Studio because it's less of a, there's less to it. So I said before, PyCharm is fantastic. PyCharm is a great tool if you are developing professional code. But because of that, it's got all the things in it that you're going to need if you're developing professional code. Now, you can develop professional code in VS Code as well, but it actually does a better job at hiding it. So because of that, and also because of the fact that VS Code makes fewer demands on my computer, which is quite old, I use VS Code. But you can do exactly the same thing in VS Code as you can. You can do it in PyCharm exactly the same as you do in VS Code. We're really having a fun time today, aren't we? Python is installed, but it wants updated. Everything wants updated today. You can't see it, but on my screen I've got a wee thing saying updating Visual Studio Code. You know, I ran all this yesterday to get ready because it was updating everything yesterday. Literally about 20 or 30 updates, and it still wanted more. Okay, let's try again. Okay, so if you haven't used Visual Studio Code before, it just works in exactly the same way. So I can type in some code, and I've got a wee run button up here, which hopefully will run the code. No, because there's an update, it wants to set up Python again. Chun, chun, chun. There we go, and it's run the hello world. Okay, so don't want to print hello world. Let's go back to my diagram. So the first thing my diagram says is, I want to decide whether or not I am a student. So how am I going to decide whether or not I am a student? What Python do I need to get that? Come on, you know that. This is an interactive lab. It's not just me telling you things. Come on. What Python do I need? Input. Okay. So I need some input. So I'm going to set up a new variable. And I'm going to use the input command. And remember, we can give a prompt with input. Thanks, Frank. Are you a AWS student? Before I do that, I'm going to say I'm just going to put that in just so that we know that what we're doing. Okay, so we've got print, welcome to the gym, student becomes input, are you a UWS student? And I'm just going to check that that works. I'm going to print student. Remember what student is. It's a variable. It didn't exist until we set it up here. And it's going to become the value of whatever we input. So I'm just going to run that. And it says, welcome to the UWS gym. Are you a UWS student? And I'm going to say yes. And it printed that off. Okay, so far so good. I'm going to put a space in there just to make it look better because I want a wee space because code should be good too. And having had that, we can now go back and say, what do we do, whether it's yes or no? And that's a point. We haven't told them what to say. We haven't said what the acceptable inputs are. Here it's yes and no, or more likely for our purposes, Y. If you have another language, it could be O or N for we or no, or J and N for yeah and nein. But we are going to say, in other words, we're going to tell the user what we're looking for here. It helps them to know whether or not they're doing it right. Okay, so we've got the input, and hopefully that's going to be yes or no. So we're going to say if student is the same as yes. Oops. Now, why have I put Y in quotes? Why is Y in quotes? Because it's a string. So somebody's typed something in at the keyboard, and if you're typing something in at the keyboard, it's a string. Okay, so if it's student, we're just going to say is a student. What do we do? What's the command for the other one? What goes along with ifs?
Else.
Else. Print. Not a student. Okay, and I'm just going to run that. We'll just want to see what's happening. Oh, rats. I've got it wrong. Now, I'm not going to kid you, I got this wrong deliberately. But trust me, see, when we're going through this, I will get things wrong and it won't be deliberate. So don't panic. People get things wrong. So it tells me it's on line 4. It's line 4 there. If student is Y, and it says that's invalid syntax. What's invalid about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember, we've got two things, which is why I never say equals. You'll never ever hear me say equals. Student with the equals student with the equals symbol means becomes. So a single equals says set the variable to that value. So down here I could say student becomes Tony, and I'm setting that value. What we want is a comparison, and as lots of you, thank you, have put into the comments, a comparison is two equal signs. So I always say that as is the same as, just so that in my head I can say becomes or is the same as. So I can be very clear about what it is I'm trying to do.
Naif?
Okay. Awie, you've got your microphone on, and I don't know about anybody else, but you scared me stiff.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
No problem. Okay, let's try that again. Oh man, it's the same line. We've fixed it, it's not fixed it. What's wrong? So we've got some answers there. And one of the things I wanted to point out here is you're given a hint. So see that up arrow there was pointing at equals for the first one to show you where the problem was. Now it's showing after the quotes. Now there's nothing there, and that suggests that I'm missing something. And remember what we have to do if it's an if. What I'm missing is the colon. Excellent. Let's go. Oh, rats. That's an easy fix though. Anytime we have one of these statements, we need a colon. And to be honest, I should have noticed that. Why? Because just like in Word, it's given me a red wavy line to tell me that I've got an error. So whenever I see that, I know that I have a problem. I don't have to run it to see that problem. Okay, so I'll put in my colon and I will run it. Oh, looking better. Welcome to UWS Gym. Are you a UWS student? Yes, is a student. Oh, not only is it a student, I'd forgotten I'd left that assign in there. So it's set student to Tony and printed off Tony there. Okay, that's fine. Now, are you happy with that, or is there anything else we should do just now? Make the F better. Yep. I'm actually not there yet, Ian, although I take your point and we'll come back to that one. Megan wants to go to the age. Well, I'm not finished with my student yet, so let's make sure this is right. So what I want to do here is I've checked yes, and that works. I also want to check no. No works. So I'm quite comfortable. That's all going to work now, okay? Yep, that's going to work. I'm quite happy that that's going to work for everything. Ah. Doesn't work for everything. Doesn't even work if we type in yes. So Ian wants to make the if better. Now, you can go to great lengths with this, because clearly there's a lot of things that could happen. And one of the things that you'll do when you're programming is try to understand what can go wrong and try and compensate for it. So I'm going to fix some things, but I'm not going to fix everything. And I'm going to leave that as an exercise for you to think about. But the first thing I want to think about is what happens if it's not yes or no. So how can we do that? How can we set up if it's not Y or N that we do something else? Howie, Europe. Not just Howie, Megan as well. Good. We can do an elif. We can say else if student is no, print not a student, and then we can do a final catch. If it's not yes and it's not no, let's print so we've got three options here: yes, no, and unknown. So my design has fallen over immediately. I forgot about unknown. I forgot about errors. I know that's getting very messy, but that's okay because it's just a bit of paper and we can crunch it up and throw it away or get another bit of paper and redo it better. So I've got a yes, I've got a no, and I've got an everything else. So let's try that again. Yes, it's a student. No, not a student. Okay, let's try that one we did before. Sorry, that's an invalid input. Please try again. So we're starting to not just answer the question, but actually cope with our users, and our users can be the biggest issue that we have. So as I say, we can do all sorts of things. We could decide to accept yes. We could decide to do all sorts of things. I'm just going to do one as an example. I'm going to say, right, okay, what if, oops. What if it's just a caps lock thing? So I can say, oops, or let's get it to accept Y or Y. So I can say if this input is lowercase y or in case input is uppercase Y, we want it to do the same thing. We want it to say as a student. And that was one of the ones I was saying. I wasn't concentrating, put the bracket in the wrong place, and I need to fix it. Fortunately, it told me what I had. Invalid syntax and is the same as, and I see that I've put the bracket there. So let me quickly fix that. And we can run it again. Are you a UWS student? Yes, lowercase, as a student. Excellent. Are you a student? Y, uppercase. Oh, good, still a student. Are you a student? No. Are you a student? Uppercase N. Invalid input. So you can see we can keep going with this. So I could do the student is the same as uppercase N. I could start adding in yes and no and all that kind of stuff. So we'll not do that just now, but I want you to have that in your head when you're thinking about writing your programs. Okay, so let's go back. Everybody happy with that before I move on? Anybody get any questions before I continue on? Now, I know that I said this in the email, but I hope you've all got your PyCharm or VS Code. I hope you've got them open, and I hope you are coding along here. I hope you're not just watching, I hope you're typing with me. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so let's remind ourselves what our flowchart looked like. And I'm just going to take out that error just because it's getting in my way of seeing what's happening. So let's do the easy one. Here we've got if they're a student, cost is 0. That's an easy one. So let's just do it. If they're a student, we can set cost comes 0. And at the end, we can then print out, rid of this, we can then print out cost. Okay, so we'll try that. Are you a UWS student? Yes, I am. And it says is student 0. Okay, so I've got a couple of things here. One is I don't need it to say is student anymore. I had that in there just so that I was sure that my code was working. Now that I'm sure that it is, I'm going to get rid of it, but I'm not going to delete it. I'm going to just comment it out. I want it to not display. Okay, that didn't work. somebody remind me how to put a comment into Python.
Hashtag.
Hash. And you see that the code went green. Sorry, just give me a second, please. Sorry about that. So if you're wondering, // is a comment in a programming language called C. Because I am slightly older, I have got all of these different languages in my head and I keep getting them mixed up. So you need to keep me right. However, if we use the hash, code turns green and it just says, okay, that's just a comment. That's not going to run. Problem is, well, what is the problem? What happened there? What happened when I commented out that bit? I have commented out the print statement, but what knock-on effect has that had? So watch while I do it again. Indentation. Yeah, good, nice thought, but no. This is a weird one. So what I've done is commented out that code, right? But you can see that it's given me the red underlines on the else. And Marissa's quite right. It's broken the if-else statement, although it's broken it in quite a subtle way, because the logic's still right. Okay, Google, stop. The logic is still right. What it's really saying is, okay, you've got that else there, but you don't have anything in the elif. So why is yours set up like this? Can't you just get rid of the whole thing? Which is why it's red afterwards. So the same code that it was fine with, it's suddenly upset about. And it's upset because there's nothing in the elif. So I'm going to leave that in just now until we've got some other code to put in there. This one was fine because we do have some code to put in there. We said cost becomes 0. So sometimes errors are where you expect them to be. Sometimes errors are for different reasons. The other thing I'm going to do is modify my print statement. I'm just going to say charge this person. So you can put more than one thing in a print statement as long as you put a comma there. And again, this is just making it easier for the person using the program. Charge this person £0. Okay, all happy so far? If we are, then we can go back to our diagram. So we've now done this bit. But we can see that we've forgotten something. Here I've said stop. What we really want to do is print the cost. We completely forgot about that. And then we can stop. Okay, so we've done, as I say, what happens if it's 0. We've also done print the cost because that's happened at the end. That's outside all the loops. We've done that right at the end. So now we need to do what happens if you're not a student. So anybody want to give me any thoughts about how we're going to do this part? Very good, Howie. Okay, we need another if. So if you're not a student, then we need the age. Now notice our first attempt said get an age, get a student. Actually, we only need an age if you're not a student. Originally, we'd said get the age, get the student, and then decide what to do. As we work through it, we'll find out, well, actually, we only need to get the age if they're not a student. So it's simplified our logic. So if they're not a student, you need to say, you need to get another variable. So we'll get it and we'll call it age because that makes sense. Age becomes input, oops, what is your age? And again, just to check that things are working properly, I will print age. Okay, so we've tested the yes side, now we're testing the no side. No. What is your age? That's good. So I'm going to say 22. Ah. Right, okay, so what's the error here? What does that error mean? You can see we've got what is your age, 22. It's printed 22, and then it said cost is not defined. Yeah, we've not defined the variable. And that's one of the things about Python. It's really convenient to be able to just define a variable whenever we want it. We just defined a variable called age there, and Python said okay. But sometimes that can cause problems later. So we've defined cost in this part, but we haven't defined cost for the elif, which means that when we get to this bit, we've never actually set this up. So I am going to fix that. I am going to go to the start of my program, and I'm going to say cost becomes undefined. I'm going to say age becomes undefined. And I'm going to say student becomes undefined. Now you don't have to do this, but what it can do, particularly when you're starting out, is A, it puts all your variables in one place so you know what you've got in there and what you're working with. And B, it means that if anything happens, you've got an idea of what's gone wrong. And you can actually make that better. So rather than just saying undefined, you can say cost is undefined. Age is undefined. Student is. So right at the start, we've said, okay, we've not defined these things. So if I run that program again, in exactly the same way, are you a student? No. What is your age? 22. It prints off 22 and it says, charge this person, cost is undefined. So it immediately reminds me, oops, I've not set up something properly. And that's happened because I've done this right at the start. So as I say, it's not necessary for Python. Python will run quite happily without it. But in terms of good practice, that's probably going a bit strong. In terms of being able to write your programs more easily, it's probably helpful to do that. Everyone happy with that? Anybody get any questions about that part? No? Okay. In that case, let's continue on. We've got an age. So we're going to do the same sort of thing as we did with student. If age what we said, if it's less than 18, it's £24. Otherwise, it's £44. So if age is less than 18, cost becomes 24. Else, cost becomes 44. Everyone happy with that? Okay, let's run it. Up. What's the syntax error? Thanks, Ian. I've forgotten my colons again. I didn't take note of my red wibbly line. Try that again. Are you a UWS student? No. What is your age? 22. So close. Different error though, which is interesting. Less than, not supported between instances of str and int. What does that mean? What's the problem here? Line 14, what's the problem? It's line 14 there, if you're wondering. Remember way back in lab 1, we got you to print the type of variables. Because we had integers and we had floats and we had strings and we had booleans. Well, input by default says that's a string, which is why it says down here, less than, not supported between instances of string and integer. So I am comparing age, which is 22, or rather it isn't. It's the character 2 followed by the character 2, making the string 22. So we are trying to compare the string 22 to the value 18. And as Marissa has correctly put into the chat, we need to change that by saying once we've got the input, which always comes in as a string, change it into an integer just by saying make it an integer like that. And again, we did that in previous labs. And I don't want to labour the point, but I've said before, this is why the labs are set up like this, and this is why I'm really keen that you go through all the questions and get them all done. Because we covered, this is called casting. So we're casting that variable as an integer. So we covered casting in an earlier lab. So hopefully you've remembered that from an earlier lab went, oh, here's the problem. So we've cast it as an integer and we can go through the test again. Are you a UWS student? No. What's your age? 22. Charge this person 44. Excellent. One of the things I want to make sure, and one of the reasons that this is helpful, is you can see that I have crossed off things. So I've crossed off, are you a student or not? That's working. The zero cost is working. The print cost is working. And now that we know 24 is working, but we can't just walk away. We've got to test all of these things. We need to test the 44 as well. So I'll run it again. Are you a student? No. What's your age? 11. Charge this person 24. Excellent. I do want to do one more test though. Can anyone think what that test might be? We already had a discussion about what the code meant around about the 18. That's called an edge case. It's where your logic flips from one to the other. So I've already tested well above 22. I've tested well below 11. What I want to do as well is test those edge cases. So in this particular case, I want to test not a student, and I want to test just below the 18. And before I do this, what should the answer be? If I input 17, what should the answer be? 24. Because they're less than 18, so if we put in 17 just at that age, we should get 24. Good, that's working. Same thing, right on the edge, 18. What should the answer be at 18? Ian's answering all the questions, 44. And indeed, that's what happens. And just for fun, I'll check 19 as well. Also 44. So there we are. We've started off with a diagram, trying to understand what it is we've got to do. We have implemented that diagram in code, but we did it not as one huge piece of code. We worked our way through it. We added bits in as we went, and we tested it as we went, so that we could test wee bits It's always easier to test small bits than it is to test a whole pile of stuff. So test wee bits and make sure that that's working before you go into the next bit. And having that diagram helps because we can see what bits we have. And finally, we tested all of the options. We took each part, the yes, no, the age variable, and we tested all of them. Oops. We tested all of them. And we made sure that they were all working okay. And only once we've done all that are we happy that we have a program that works. And we should now have a program that allows us to say, we've calculated the cost based on the information input. Anybody get any questions about that?
What's about like lab 5? Like we can able to ask questions for lab 5?
Once we get to lab 5, yes, but we're just finishing lab 3. Next we'll do lab 4 and we'll do lab 5 after that, okay?
Okay, yeah, sure.
And it's part of this building things up. I want to make sure you understand all the labs before we go into the next one because they do all add into each other.
Yeah, sure.
So everyone okay with this? Okay, everyone seems happy. So we've done lab 3. This is lab 4. For those of you who have forgotten. So have a think whether there's anything in there that you want me to go over, and I will do that. But that's been an hour and 20 minutes. I think we all need a break. So we will have a break and I will see you back here in 10 minutes. Okay?
Yeah.
Walk around, grab a drink. And we're back eventually. There's my computer. It's happier. Okay, we did lab 3, question 3 there. Has anyone thought of anything whilst we've been away that they want to ask about that one first? Okay, in that case, there's lab 4. Anything in lab 4 that you want to ask about?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
It's more like a problem. So it is related to, one sec, I will open it. It is related to the third task. So
How many odd numbers? That one?
yeah,
Okay.
there are two tasks in one, first A and second B.
Yep.
And I can't, so no, I managed to do B, but it is in a very weird and I think stupid way. Maybe I can share my screen to show.
Yep, go for it.
One sec.
Nikita, I'll come to you next. I see your hand up. Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
So I did it like that. I had a problem with starting from 0. So in B we start from a number which user gives us and not from 0. So initially I had a problem that when I write 1, it shows 1 odd number. It shows like it shows it shows 3 because here it will be 3 because of that. So I came up with the idea just to subtract 1 from user choice, and that was the only solution. And I imagined. So
Okay.
yeah, so I'm looking for a better way to handle this task.
Okay. Firstly, I don't like the use of beta, because with a lot of these tasks, there's lots of different ways of doing it. And in essence, if you solve it, then that's a good answer. That only changes where we have different approaches that might be more efficient, faster, whatever. But right at the moment, for the sort of stuff that we're doing, if you can solve the problem, I'm happy. For this one, there's a few ways that you could approach it. Yours is clearly one of them.
Could you show, please, one more approach?
So this is for 3B.
Yeah.
Okay. If you stop sharing, I will share
Yes.
my screen instead. Okay, so once again, we have create a fully commented program to display a required amount of odd numbers starting from a specific number. First thing I'll say is, of course, the example that we did before, I started with the first bit, and then I added in, and then I added in, and that's exactly what's happening here. Question 2 is doing the first bit, and then we add on more, and then we add on more. However, I'll take it as a completely new problem. So how many odd numbers they want to sum, starting from a number of their choice. So we're going to need a few things. Oops. Come on, short, thank you. We're going to need a few things. We are going to need a start. We're going to need a number of numbers. And that's it really, isn't it? So we can say that we want to print the start number. And then we want to add 2. Because if it's every odd number, we need to go up in 2s. Oh, but we've immediately got a problem. What's the problem?
If they start on an even number?
Yeah, we don't know that the start number is an odd number. Okay. So let's think about it again. And actually, I just saw the chat there, and someone wants questions 3A. So actually, we'll do 3A first, and then we'll update it. Okay. So we'll ignore the start just now. We'll say we're starting from 0. And how many they want to do. So we'll park that just now and just say the number that we have. So let's think about that. We're going to start from 0 instead. And we want a certain number of odd numbers. We've asked the user. So that's an easy bit, I suppose. So get the number. Well, that's the easy bit. Now we've got the hard bit. So to think about it, let's think about the tools that we have. And it's important to think about our tools. In this case, the types of command that we have in Python. There's an old saying, to a man that only has a hammer, every problem is a nail. And Michaela started by saying, well, maybe there's better ways of doing it. I'm not sure about better, but there are different ways, and one of the ways that we can approach it is by knowing the sorts of tools that we have to hand. You saw I just searched for Python for loops because that's what we're doing just now. I'm just taking the first one. I genuinely haven't looked at this. ahead, so I don't know if everything that I need is in here. There we go. So we were doing for loops, and we also had range loops. So let's just remind ourselves what they are. And I'll do it by starting off with a new program. And I'll call it odds. Oops. Not that I can spell odds, apparently. And let's just remind ourselves what these things do. So we have a for, and a for loop works its way through a list or a set of numbers. And we can set that range of numbers by using the range command. Let's just remind ourselves what this will do. So we've got for range, and then I want to print.
It will give us a sequence starting from I don't know, I usually start from 1, and it will end up before the last digit you wrote, just before.
Okay. So let's just check that that is indeed the case. What is it that I need to print in here?
Print, but you should also write a dummy
Variable.
variable, yeah.
I've forgotten my variable. If I go back, it says for x in range 6. So it's not a dummy variable, it's a variable that we can use to take each value. And rather than call it x, I'm going to call it count. So count becomes range 6. Just like the if statement, I'm going to need a colon. And then I'm going to print count. And I'm only doing this just to remind myself what's going on. What I got wrong? Again, it's a variable, but I'm not setting the value. So I said, I used the equals. Actually, it's got another command here. It's got in. So instead of for count becomes, we're saying for count in a specific range. And that helps actually when we're thinking about it, when we're actually saying it. So rather than saying for count becomes, we're saying for each value of count in that range, do something. Okay, so what does that mean when we don't do anything else? If we run it, it says start at the first number. Now the first number isn't 1, it's 0. And that's always the case in Python. Python is a zero-based programming language. Most programming languages are. So it's saying for count in the range up to 6, print count, starting at 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it also means up to, but not including. Or you can think of it as saying print 6 values, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 6 values there. And that's where it can get, if you're not used to it, a wee bit tricky, because we always have the 0. So we are printing 6 numbers, but the first one is 0. So it's 0 through to 5. And that would be the same no matter what I put in there. If I said 8, it will be 8 numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, everyone happy with that before we move on? However, we don't have to start at 0. We can give another parameter in range here. So remember, if we have a value in brackets, it's called parameter. They're called parameters. And Python will figure out what you want to do depending on the number of parameters we have. So our code here, we have one parameter, so it says, okay, start at the beginning, go up to but not including the number. But we can have two parameters. We can say, let's start at a specific value, in this case 2, up to 8. So before we run that, what do you think it will print? Will it print 2 by a show of hands? Remember, you can do a reaction in Teams. Put your hand up if you, or do a clap, or do anything at all in one of the reactions if you think it will print 2. Thumbs up, maybe. So nobody thinks it will print a 2. Megan thinks it'll print it 2. Thank you, Megan. I think it will print 2 as well. I think it will print 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now the question is, will it do 8? And the answer is, just like when we had one parameter, no, it won't. It will start at 7 and it will go up to, but not include 8. So again, that's quite a nice tool to have. Because remember what our lab actually was. We had to start from a particular place, which in this case was 0. Here, they can start from a number of their choice. So that's good. We're starting to get those kind of tools in our range. Function. Be nice though if we didn't print every number. And thankfully, range has an option for that. We can put a third option in there. Start at a number, end at a number, but go up in a specific increment. So if we add a third option to our range, I'm going to use 2. This should start at 2. We're going to go up in 2s, so it's 2, 4, 6, 8. Oh, but we said we won't include 8, so it should be 2, 4, and 6. Now that's quite handy. So now we've got something that says start at a particular number, go up to a particular number, up to not including a particular number, in steps of 2. So let's say we have a start number. We have a number of numbers. And presumably, if we're going to ask people for them, oops, not that one. Presumably, if we're going to ask people for them, we are going to need an input. So we'll get start becomes input. Please enter the starting number. I've got my quotes. Put them in. Number becomes please enter the number of odd numbers to print. As well as telling the user, that reminds us what we're doing as well. So it's the number of odd numbers to print. Everyone happy with that?
I'm now thinking about my program, and I can't really get so our starting number, we write the digit from which it will start, like we wrote 5, and then for example, how many odd numbers do you want? 2, so it will start 5 and it will write 5 and 7, or like it means I want to start from a quantity of odd numbers 5, like
We want to start at 5 and then print, say, 3 odd numbers. So that would be 5, 7, and 9. That, I think, is what it's asking. How many odd numbers they want, starting from a number of their choice. There's another wrinkle, which is that you have to add them up. But again, this is part of building it up to get to there. So we're just saying how many odd numbers they want to do. And we'll add in the sum later.
so if I write how many odd numbers they want to sum, 3, and the starting number 5, how it will look like?
Okay, so there's hopefully that's how it looks. Enter the starting number and enter the odd number of odd numbers to sum. So that's what we're asking them. So we can start to think about this range here. So instead of having a number 2, we can say, well, we're starting at wherever they enter. Question is, what do we go up to? Well, we need to start to work that out. If we have a starting number and they're entering the number of odd numbers, we can say that the end number becomes the start plus the number of numbers times 2, because we're only doing every second number. So we can say, instead of 8, we can put end. And just to keep us right, I'm going to go back and I'm going to say end's not defined either. Okay, so you see how I'm getting that. We're getting the start number. If we're only doing every second number for the number of numbers, we need to multiply it by 2. So the end number is a start with the number of numbers we're having multiplied by 2. Okay? See how we go on with that. Please enter the starting number, 5. Please enter the number of odd numbers to sum, 3. Rats. Didn't get too far. Okay, let's work it out. Line 10. Line 10 is this one, the 4. Type error. str object cannot be interpreted as an integer. What's the error? Lilia, do you want to come in just now, or is it a different question?
This is questions is like for first like for first how it's called task first.
Okay, Lilia, you can come back in if you want. Oh, I see who you put. Yeah, okay.
I don't know. It's like okay, have space between because I finish all lab right now, but this is like trigger for me.
This is a different question, isn't it?
And yeah, probably.
Yeah, we'll stick to this lab just now. We'll come to yours later, okay?
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
What have we done wrong for this? We have forgotten to cast it as an integer again. So we've got a string input. So we need an integer. Yeah, let's try that again. Starting at 5 with 3, and it says 579. Oh, that's good. Did also say we wanted to add them up, so we can say sum Actually, in this particular case, I'm not sure that I want this, because somewhere in here, I want to say the sum of the numbers becomes whatever the sum is plus the count. And if I start off with sum being not defined, what do you think is going to happen? Said the sum's not defined, and then we've tried to add a number to it. So instead of saying sum not defined, I'm going to set it at 0 to begin with. And then I'm going to just print the sum. And we'll try that again. He's into the starting number, 5.
Could you explain why we double NO in the string number 9?
Okay, so we tell it we want to start at 5 and have 3 numbers. So we can't just say start at 5, we have 3 numbers. We can't just add them up and have 8. Why not? Because it's not just all numbers, it's odd numbers. So every time we have to go up in 2s, we have to go 5, 7, 9, 11, and so on. Which means that to get the end number, it's not just the number of numbers, it's the number of numbers times 2, because we need to remember all these even numbers that we're not actually going to use. So if we're starting at 5 and we want 3 odd numbers, we need the 6 we're not going to use plus 7. So that's why we multiplied that by 2. We want the 8 that we're not going to use, then the 9. And then the 10 that we're not going to use, and then 11. But we know that the range number won't do the last one, so that works out. okay, Michaela?
I don't know.
This is less about programming and more about numbers, that part. So sit with a bit of paper and write down the numbers till you can figure out that calculation. Okay, so we've got 579, 5 and 7 is 12, plus 9 is 21, and we've got the sum. So we're doing okay. However, we do have one slight issue. What happens if I say a starting number of 6 this time? And 3. Oops. So I can type in 6, isn't it? 6 and 3. Oh, now we're doing even numbers rather than odd numbers.
I got it. I got it. Why we should use like that? Yeah.
Good. Right. So if someone's entered an odd number, we could just go to the input and say, and put the onus on the user. And if they ignore it, that's their fault.
Yeah, I agree.
We want to just put it on the user.
Yeah, that it is their fault.
That's never the user's fault. It's always our fault. If we can do it so that the user doesn't have to be, if the user doesn't have to think about it, then that's what we should do. So let me show you another tool that we have in our toolbox. We have something, and again, this is more to do with numbers than it is to do with Python. Python's just implementing this because this is how numbers work. You're all familiar with things like plus, minus, multiply, divide. There's also something called modulo, the modulus of a number. What it does is it returns the remainder. So we divide one number by another, but because we use the modulo syntax, it doesn't return the answer, it returns the remainder, which is quite handy. Why? Because, well, let me show you. Let me just print, sorry?
Thus, we can understand whether the number is odd or even.
I print 3 mod 2, and then I print 4 mod 2. And I'll just quickly run that. And you can say 3 mod 2 is 1, 4 mod 2 is 0. So as you see, we can figure out whether or not a number is odd or not. So what I can do here is I can say if the start mod 2 is 0, in other words, it's an even number, then I can say start becomes start plus 1. So I can find out whether they have entered an odd number, an even number. If they have entered an even number, I can automatically make it an odd number. So I don't have to give them this instruction. They just have to enter the starting number. So now, if I run this program, no, I've done it again. I've said becomes instead of is the same as. Thank you, Uma. So here, if I enter the starting number of 4, and I want 3, it should say, well, 4's an even number, so let's move to 5. We'll start at 5, do 3 of them, and get the sum. So again, knowing these tools that we have allows us to solve this problem. I can't remember now, is that the whole problem? I've forgotten. Yeah, so now they can say how many odd numbers they want to sum, starting from a number of their choice, and we're done. Everyone happy with that?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I got it.
Okay. Now, I know that I had 2 hands up, so who wants to come in for the next one? I don't think anybody else had anything else on lab 4, so I'm assuming it was lab 5. Lilia?
Yeah, I still want to ask about lab 5. So if someone have questions for lab 4, I will wait. So.
I don't think there were, well, unless anybody wants to tell me anything different, I don't think there were any more questions for lab 4. I'm just bringing up lab 5 just now. Come on, you can do it. Okay, so there's lab 5. Which one are we talking about?
Question first, like, it's like, look at the space, like in the picture, like, I don't understand why it's like, look like that, because it's not used to look like that. It's, working properly, so code absolutely fine, like number absolutely correct, everything correct, like I finished all lab 5 and have only question about the space. It should be like that, or I can do something with this.
You can do something with it. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, there is an image in the chat you can look at. Which looks like this. And what Lila is asking about is, why does it go out of sync?
Yeah.
And the answer is to do with tabs. I'm guessing you've got a tab in there.
Yeah, I have 2 tabs, like how you see, like the space, and also in end, I have space, like in this background. So
what you need to do is think of the screen as a piece of squared paper. Okay, so there's columns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and there's rows. When you do tabs are preset, usually in sets of 8. So the first tab is in the first column, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you get to the second column on 9, and the third column on 17. Okay, so it's sets of 8. The problem comes where you have extra numbers in there. So the tab is putting on an extra part. So for Python, it's not in sets of 8, it's in sets of 4, which is why it's jumped on not to the tab that you have, but onto the next one, which is why they're still in line here and still in line here, because they're still okay with themselves, but they go out of line with the previous ones where you only had 2 digits. So I'm going to tell you that, but I'm not going to tell you how to solve it because it's Lab 5 and not everybody's got that far yet. So if you don't mind, that's the issue. It's about tabs and about where that ends up when you enter a tab. And I will leave you to have a think about how you can fix that, simply because we haven't done Lab 5 yet. And I don't want to give everybody the answer. I want to give them the chance of playing with it. Okay, so play a bit more with the tabs. You can even do it without the numbers. You can do it just with text, just to see where they're going to be. And then you can have a think about how that's going to work.
Now, maybe I have already a solution. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, we're actually, I didn't realise the time. It's after 12, but I do still have a hand from, oh no, it's still Lilia's hand. So I'll put Lilia's hand down.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's fine. Okay, so we are after, well after the 2 hours. So firstly, has that helped? Was that useful doing it that way?
Yeah, it helped.
Okay. And sorry?
How should I contact you about if I have later on, if I have some question about lab 5, what is the better way of contacting you via Teams or via Gmail?
No, I'd ask everybody to use Teams, if only because it means that everybody can see the question and the answer, and people tend to have similar questions and answers. Plus, if you send something via the mail, it quite often puts it into spam and I don't see it. So if you put it into Teams, that's the best place to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I hope that was helpful. I know we only got through, I was going to say 2 questions, but it was kind of more than that because we did questions 2 and 3 from Lab 4, I suppose. 2, 3A and 3B, all in one. I took a wee bit longer over it because I wanted to show the kind of steps that went through. I wanted to show the idea of working through the problem and trying to understand what the issue is before going to type in code. And also took a wee bit longer, sometimes deliberately and sometimes inadvertently, putting in errors and showing you how to fix them. Because you will get errors. Don't be scared of errors. Just start to read the error message and start to figure out how to fix it. That's the best way to cope with them. So I hope that was helpful. I might put out a wee thing just to see if it was more or less helpful or whether you preferred this to, well, just while you're here. In fact, no. Give me a second. I am going to stop the recording